For decades, China has been the world's workshop, producing everything from smartphones to Christmas toys. Its factories have churned out goods that fill shelves across the globe, making "Made in China" a household phrase in nearly every country. This industrial rise was no accident. It was built on careful planning, massive investment, and the labor of millions. Government policies encouraged foreign investment, while infrastructure projects connected even the most remote regions to global markets. China's transformation lifted more people out of poverty than any nation in history, reshaping the global economy. Entire generations moved from rural villages to booming cities, seeking new opportunities and fueling the country's rapid growth. But today, the ground is shifting beneath this industrial giant. The once unstoppable engine of growth is now facing headwinds that threaten its momentum. The strengths that fueled China's ascent are now exposing new vulnerabilities. Rising labor costs, an aging workforce, and stricter environmental regulations are making manufacturing less competitive. Globally, suspicion and competition are replacing the open embrace China once enjoyed. Trade tensions, export controls, and shifting alliances are challenging China's role in the world economy. At home, fresh challenges threaten the old model of growth. Factories are closing in some regions, and workers are demanding better wages and conditions, putting pressure on traditional industries. China stands at a crossroads. It wants to move from being the world's factory, focused on low-cost manufacturing, to becoming its inventor and leader, driving innovation in fields like artificial intelligence, green energy, and advanced manufacturing. Yet this ambition faces serious obstacles: technological, political, and economic. The country must overcome barriers to innovation, navigate global skepticism, and manage internal reforms. The central question remains: can China overcome these hurdles and become truly self-reliant in a divided world where trust and cooperation are in short supply? The answers will shape not just China's future, but the global economy for decades to come, influencing jobs, technology, and prosperity worldwide. Understanding China's industrial challenges is key to understanding the world today, and the choices made now will echo far into the future. To grasp China's challenges, we must first recognize its scale. China is the world's largest manufacturer, producing nearly a third of all goods, more than the US, Germany, and Japan combined. In 2024, its exports hit $3.71 trillion, reflecting immense production power. China now leads in advanced sectors. It makes over 80% of the world's solar panels and dominates electric vehicles and battery production. Its high-speed rail network and telecom giants like Huawei are global leaders. This strength comes from deliberate government strategy-heavy investment in infrastructure, special economic zones, and targeted subsidies. China's complete supply chains mean it can build complex products almost entirely within its borders, reducing costs and boosting speed. This industrial ecosystem is hard to replicate and underpins China's economic power. The world depends on China's factories. Any disruption is felt globally. But this formidable strength now faces powerful headwinds. The next challenge: critical vulnerabilities. Despite its industrial might, China faces critical choke points, areas where it relies on foreign technology or components. These vulnerabilities are the Achilles heel of China's economic model. No country can excel at everything. Global specialization means China assembles, while others design and supply key tech. In an era of competition, this division is a major risk. Imagine China building a house but needing foreign tools for the most complex tasks. If those are cut off, the project stalls. These choke points are now central to the geopolitical struggle with the West. The US and allies use them to slow China's technological and military progress. For Beijing, closing these gaps is now a top national priority. The race to overcome these vulnerabilities is on. The next battleground: semiconductors. Nowhere are China's vulnerabilities more exposed than in the world of semiconductors, the tiny, intricate brains that power everything from smartphones to supercomputers. These chips are the foundation of modern electronics, and without them, entire industries would grind to a halt. Despite being the world's largest consumer of chips, China faces a major hurdle. It still cannot manufacture the most advanced semiconductors it desperately needs for its tech ambitions and national security. The most cutting-edge chips require extreme ultraviolet or EUV lithography machines, highly specialized equipment made exclusively by ASML in the Netherlands. Due to intense US pressure, these machines are off-limits to China, creating a critical bottleneck. The United States also dominates the software used to design advanced chips, and it restricts the flow of technical expertise and intellectual property to Chinese firms, tightening the stranglehold on China's tech sector. These coordinated measures have severely crippled Chinese tech giants like Huawei, highlighting just how powerful these technological choke points can be in shaping global competition. In response, China is pouring billions of dollars into building a domestic chip industry from the ground up, determined to close the gap and reduce its reliance on foreign technology. The ultimate goal is clear: to create a fully self-sufficient supply chain, one that is immune to outside interference and capable of supporting China's technological rise. But catching up in advanced chip-making is a monumental challenge. It means recreating decades of global innovation, expertise, and collaboration, an uphill battle that will test China's resolve and ingenuity. While China has made significant progress in producing basic and mid-tier chips, the most sophisticated, cutting-edge designs remain just out of reach, keeping China a step behind the global leaders. The global chip war is not a quick sprint, but a grueling marathon, one that will play out over years, if not decades, as nations race to secure their technological futures. The outcome of this high-stakes competition will shape the next era of technological power, influencing everything from economic growth to national security on a global scale. But hardware is only part of the equation. The software that runs on these chips is just as vital and presents its own set of challenges for China. Software dependencies on foreign code, platforms, and standards are just as critical as hardware, and overcoming them will be essential for true technological independence. China's vulnerabilities extend beyond hardware to the invisible world of software and digital tools. Most smartphones run on Google's Android or Apple's iOS, PCs rely on Microsoft Windows. Chinese alternatives like Harmony OS struggle to gain traction due to a lack of apps and developer support. In industry, advanced design and engineering software from Western firms are essential and hard to replace. Losing access to these tools would cripple entire sectors, from aviation to automotive. Developing world-class software takes decades of expertise and a culture of innovation, not just money. Beijing is pushing for domestic alternatives, but progress is slow. Software dependency is a persistent vulnerability, one of the hardest chains to break. As China tries to innovate, it must also navigate a changing global trade environment. The trade winds have turned into storms. For decades, China's remarkable economic growth was powered by globalization and the free flow of goods across borders. Open markets allowed Chinese factories to become the world's workshop, churning out everything from electronics to clothing at an unprecedented scale. But that era is now coming to an end, and the winds that once propelled China forward are shifting. Today, the US and Europe increasingly view China not just as a trading partner, but as a strategic rival. This shift in perception has led to a dramatic change in global trade dynamics. Trade wars and escalating tariffs have made Chinese goods more expensive and less competitive in overseas markets. Many foreign buyers are now reconsidering their reliance on Chinese suppliers. The US has imposed steep tariffs on key Chinese exports like electric vehicles and solar panels, effectively shutting China out of some of the world's most lucrative markets and making it harder for Chinese companies to expand abroad. As a result, Chinese firms are being forced to seek new, less wealthy markets in regions like Africa and Southeast Asia, or absorb painful financial losses as demand from the West declines. Meanwhile, the US is actively encouraging companies to move their supply chains to allied countries, a strategy known as friendshoring. This is reshaping the global manufacturing landscape. Major multinational firms like Apple are already shifting significant portions of their production to countries such as India and Vietnam, seeking stability and lower risks. While China's vast industrial base remains difficult to fully replace, this gradual shift poses a serious long-term threat to its dominance in global manufacturing. The era of frictionless, globalized trade is over. China now faces a more hostile and fragmented global economy, with new barriers and uncertainties at every turn. At the same time, China is grappling with mounting domestic challenges, including a slowing economy and rising unemployment. Weak consumer demand at home is creating new dilemmas for businesses, leaving products unsold and factories underutilized. To truly understand the scale of these challenges, let's look inside China's borders and see how these global shifts are impacting everyday life and industry. China's economy can't rely on exports alone, it needs strong domestic demand, but weak consumer confidence, driven by a property crisis and high youth unemployment, is holding growth back. Real estate, once a key engine, is now weighed down by debt and falling values, making people less willing to spend. Young, educated workers struggle to find good jobs, further dampening consumption. Foreign companies face unpredictable regulations, making them wary of investing. Overproduction at home leads to dumping goods abroad, triggering more tariffs and trade barriers. Solving these domestic issues is as critical as winning the tech race. Without a confident consumer base, China's industrial engine will sputter. Facing external and internal pressures, Beijing is pushing for technological self-reliance. The Made in China 2025 plan targets leadership in key sectors like robotics, aerospace, and biotech. Massive state investment is pouring into research, development, and domestic champions. In semiconductors, China is building fabs, funding companies, and training engineers to close the gap. State-owned enterprises are encouraged to buy Chinese, supporting local tech even if it lags behind. The dual circulation strategy aims to boost domestic consumption and reduce reliance on exports. Policies focus on raising household incomes and strengthening the social safety net to encourage spending. Success isn't guaranteed. Overcoming deep technological hurdles and rebalancing the economy is a huge task, but the political will and resources are immense. China is determined to move from made in China to created in China. The world is watching to see if it can succeed. The final question, can China truly forge its own path? China's industrial engine is powerful and will remain a global force, but the foundations of its success are being tested as never before. Technological choke points and trade protectionism threaten its ambitions. Deep domestic problems, property crisis, weak demand, undermine growth from within. China is fighting on multiple fronts, and the outcome is uncertain. The state's ability to mobilize resources is formidable, and progress in self-sufficiency is likely in many areas. Yet true innovation often thrives in open, collaborative environments, not top-down systems. By turning inward, China risks missing out on global breakthroughs. The future may be one of partial success, more independent, but still chasing the frontier. In a divided world, China's next chapter will shape the global economy for years to come.